It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Army head men's rugby coach, Matt Sherman. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Brandon. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to start your coaching career?
I think I just always enjoyed strategic aspects of coaching and sports in general. And I was always, in elementary school, I'd be drawing up football plays, in my art classes, and it was just strategy always appealed to me. And all through growing up, I loved being part of the team. So even though I knew, at some point playing was going to come to an end, I always thought I'd be involved in some capacity.
Can you talk about, of course, how you knew that you wanted to become a rugby coach?
I'm not sure I'd say I knew I wanted to become a rugby coach. I just think rugby was the sport I was able to excel at and go further at. And so I think it just lended itself to more opportunities, being a rugby coach. And I always reckon I would quite like being a football coach. I think they have probably more influence on the game than any other sport. But rugby is really fun too, because it's a lot about building decision makers and cultures versus calling plays. So that's quite fun too.
What was your time like as the director of rugby for Stanford?
It was great. It was unique experience where I got to work with both the men's and the women's teams, and I learned a lot there. I had less experienced players, so I think that it was challenging as a coach, but it was a good challenge. It helped me look at things a little bit differently. And in hindsight, I like most things, there's probably a lot I would have done differently and hopefully better. But certainly, I think I really learned with less experienced players how to really break things down into very digestible small chunks. So that was a good experience.
What was your experience like coaching the U.S. men's national team as the assistant coach?
That was great. It was a lot of fun, a lot of travel at the time. As a single guy. So being able to work with really good players was fun, challenging in different ways. We didn't get to be assembled as much as we'd like. We had guys from lots of different cultures, which was challenging. But it was a great experience overall. Learned quite a bit, and again, learned some things that probably I would do differently this time. It's all part of the growth. So yeah, it was a great experience.
What was your experience like in 2007 in California winning the championship?
That was a lot of fun. It was I just finished grad school and come back, and it was my alma mater, so it was fun to be back there, and it worked out well with my schedule. As soon as I finished grad school, I was able to join the team, and that was really my first experience where coaching in a full-time environment, and I loved it. It's great.
Can you talk about, of course, what you've accomplished so far at Army West Point?
Well, what we've accomplished, I think as a team, I'd say we've accomplished to remain being nationally competitive, and for us specifically, beat Navy every year except for one, which is important. Same with Air Force. But for me, more so, I think the biggest accomplishment has been, say, improving as a leader. I think West Point, is the leadership development institution, probably the top one in the world. And I think it's challenged me in ways to look at myself at where I am as a leader, and I think allowed me to grow quite a bit where I needed to grow. So for me personally, it's been becoming a better leader. But I think our most important accomplishments are still in front of us.
What are some of the biggest similarities and differences between, of course, football and rugby?
I would say the biggest similarity is that there's specialization. And so, if you're a strong guy or a big guy or a fast guy or a skill guy, there's a position that, utilizes your strengths. But the biggest difference is then regardless of that, you still have to do or get to do everything. So, if you're a big guy, you're not just going to block, you're going to run around in space and make some tackles and maybe try and break some tackles. And so it asks questions of you in ways where, you're less comfortable, I'd say. So that'd be the biggest difference. So it's a bit of a combination of those two.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you have built at Army for the rugby team?
Sure. I'm a little hesitant to use the phrase, that I've built the culture because I think the team really, builds and drives the culture. And this team really, upon coming here, really taught me quite a bit about what the team has been about traditionally, which is really positive. And we just really wanted to keep that going and build upon it. But, I think, we want to build a culture of excellence, which for us is about growth. It's about development. It's about improving. It's about a learning culture where we're getting better all the time. And we think we'll achieve out of that, but the focus is on growth. And we really, to drive that target, to hit that target of a culture of excellence, we really focus on, the behaviors that we put in, driven by some values. So for us, currently, we're focusing on, trust and commitment and love and being great teammates. And so, we try and, when we try and get real specific about, how can we define our behaviors amongst these values, I think it really helps us to kind of guide what is good and what needs to be better.
What is a typical game day like for a rugby team, as my listeners may not know what rugby might do?
Yeah, I'd just say it's probably similar to like a football game. We play once a week. It's a attritional game. You can't play all the time, or you would run out of bodies. But we will play once a week, so it's a pretty big buildup. I think for a rugby game, you got to be pretty emotionally, mentally, physically, and emotionally. You have to be all in to play it at a high level. You can't be, in a state that's just, your typical daily state. So, I think you would see a lot of the intensity you would see in some of those other sports where guys are trying to, get themselves into a space where they can really be at their best when they're in a really challenging environment. And so, a lot of guys with their headphones and taped and then a pretty short, intense warm up.
Who are some teams that you play besides, of course, your Air Force and Navy?
We play in the Rugby East Conference, which is most of the best teams here in the Northeast, and then we travel quite a bit regionally and nationally to seek out the best competition in the country. But our regular regional competition would be Penn State, St. Bonaventure, Kutztown, teams of that nature.
What is the recruitment process like for prospective student athletes looking to go into rugby?
It's the same as any other sport, I'd say. What's unique at West Point is obviously we spend a bit of time educating them on the uniqueness of West Point, so they get to know it. But it's very similar to other sports. Coming for visits, getting to know them as people, as athletes, as students, as teammates. And working with them on that process.
What would a prospective student athlete do on an official visit?
We really like to give our recruits the experience of being an Army rugby player and cadet athlete at West Point. So we'll typically have them shadow with the current player, spend the day going to classes, having lunch with the team, coming to practice or game if they're there on the weekend, and then spending some time with me and our other coaches to get us get to know us better, for us to get to know them better.
What are some of the things that you have adapted to with COVID being a big factor in sports right now?
I think adapted to being more adaptable. I think just acknowledging that everything's subject to change and that we can change and that we're going to need to. And I think as well, just probably being a little more hyper aware of the challenges our guys face. That life isn't as fun right now, just overall, and we need to be looking after guys and making sure their mental welfare is okay, at all times.
What advice would you give upcoming high school athletes looking to play rugby in college?
I'd say first and foremost, be the best student you can be, because that's going to have an effect on your ability to get to certain places and more importantly, be successful. And it'll also help you build, great habits in your academic area of your life. And then I'd say, compete at the highest level you can. And then lastly, I'd say over communicate with coaches and be professional, would be my three things.
What advice would you give upcoming coaches looking to get into coaching and rugby?
Sorry, can you repeat that, please?
What advice would you give upcoming coaches looking to get their start in coaching and college rugby?
Good question. I'd just say coach as much as you can to learn from experience, and learn as much as you can in all ways. And I read everything I can on coaching, on leadership. I just think you got to be hungry to get better and to always learn. I think if you do that, if you have that mentality, your opportunities will come.
That's wonderful advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with Army's rugby program at?
You can't find me many places on social media, but because I'm just not I couldn't even tell you what my Twitter handle is. I have one, but I can't tell you what I don't know. Army Rugby's on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter. I don't know about the other ones. I don't even know which the other ones are, but that's where you can find us.
Thank you again, Coach Matt, for your interview, and best of luck in this upcoming season.
All right, Brandon. Thanks very much. Good luck to you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Matt, for your interview, and best of luck.
Thanks very much, Brandon. Bye-bye.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.